Hello! Yes, this is Planet Coaster 2. You knew there was no way that I could make all my videos earlier this year on Planet Coaster 2 speculating about what's coming and then not play it myself. What you're seeing on the screen right now is the first thing I've ever built in the game. It's the first coaster I placed down and the first theming I even placed down. So I wanted to make a time-lapse video taking you through that experience, and then I'm going to talk about what my thoughts of the game so far after building what you've seen here. But yeah, everything here is literally the first ride I've ever made in the game. And I'll be honest, I'm actually really enjoying it. Like, it's really fun to build in this game. Actually a lot more fun than the first game in my opinion. But there are still a fair few things that need a lot of work from Frontier. But we'll get into that. Let's get into the build process. So, as you can see, I've literally just placed down the station, and this is literally the first coaster I picked out. I went in the coaster menu and had a look through what I wanted to make as my first ride in the game, and I landed on the Vekoma rotating coaster, which is obviously based in real life on the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster model. Now, as you can see here, I was sort of going for a slow-moving dark ride section at the start where it just takes a few turns and straight tracks. Kind of inspired by Toon Blaster at Chessington World of Adventures, if you know that ride, where it's entirely a dark ride. It doesn't have any coaster section, that one, but Toon Blaster just goes through these big turnaround scenes with huge bits of theming, and that's what inspired that dark ride section at the start. Now the time-lapse is moving very quickly, but as you can see, I'm making a very simple coaster layout here where it's all stacked on top of each other because I want to keep this roller coaster entirely indoors in a warehouse, and typically indoor roller coasters are very compact and stacked on top of itself as to keep the warehouse building as small as possible. You know, in real life, theme parks don't want to be spending enormous amounts on making the warehouse bigger than they actually need to if they could just stack the coaster on top of itself. So what I was just doing there is controlling the yaw of the coaster, which on this coaster type specifically, you control where the carriages face. And I tried doing this whilst building the coaster, but I wouldn't advise that. What I'd do, like I did here, is build the entire track layout first and then decide where you want the carriages facing afterwards, because currently in the game, if you decide which way the carriage is facing whilst you're placing track, you'll place the next bit of track and it goes back to forward. So it's definitely worth building the entire layout first and then doing the carriage yaw afterwards. Here I'm making a basic sort of rough outline of the warehouse and just smoothing out the track. The coaster smoother is very good. It's one of the good things, one of the things I really like about the game. Something I'm not so fond of is, you can see it on the screen there, is the coaster building menu, which appears on the right hand side of the screen. It's a weirdly designed menu. It feels like there's a lot of screen space it could be utilizing, and yet there's just weird things that are hidden from you and you have to scroll or click to find them. So I know it's like a bit nitpicky to say, oh, it's an extra 1 or 2 clicks, but it's one of those things that when you spend so much time in this game, you notice all those extra clicks. Here you can see I'm actually having my first go at the roller coaster carriage train designer, where you can actually attach scenery to the coaster train itself. And I wanted to make it look less Guardians of the Galaxy and more steampunk. So I'm adding all these bits and bobs from the aquatic theme pack. And I think the trains came out really cool, to be honest. You could do quite a lot just to make the train completely custom to the ride, and that actually feels very new and really elevates the game from the first one, in my opinion, making the rides feel actually custom rather than just having to deal with the built-in theming. Here I'm starting to enclose some of the roof area, although I do actually lift that roof off in order to build the dark ride scenes, because it's much easier to build inside the building when there's no roof on it. So what I like to do when I build dark rides or indoor rides in Planet Coaster, and I guess now Planet Coaster 2, is I like to build the structural walls first. So you can see I'm placing all of these black rectangle art pieces to build these structural walls around like the scenes of the dark ride. And I find that easier and more realistic, because in real life you would likely build the warehouse and all its walls first and then theme the inside of that, and I think that ends up with a much more realistic looking dark ride. And here you can see I'm building an airship, which I'm struggling to put on this moving track, but I got it working in the end. The animatronic track pieces and spinning pieces are fantastic, but I did find that I would build an airship on, let's say, the rotating animatronic piece, and then I would need to build the entire airship again, because you can't disconnect it from an animatronic piece. There's no way to blueprint it or disconnect it. I just had to start again and build a whole second airship from scratch, which was a bit annoying, but again, I let the game off on little things like that, because I'm hoping that Frontier can actually just patch those things in the future. That I didn't film all of the scenes that I was making in the game, but so as you can see, some of them are already built, but yeah, it's coming together nicely. I didn't really touch on the station much, but you can see I'm just closing it in with those nice curved roof pieces, which I think are so cool. In fact, the whole aquatic theming pack is so good, especially for Steampunk, obviously, but it's just the detail in the pieces are so nice, and being able to scale them makes sure you can literally get so much use out of every piece. I think in the main section of the dark ride here, or the main coaster section, sorry, I scaled pieces up to crazy sizes, but also down to crazy small sizes. So you can do all sorts. Like in the earlier dark ride section, I used pieces a lot smaller, and in this section I use them a lot bigger because I had a lot more space. As you can see, when I'm building this tower in the center of the helix, I wanted this section of the ride to be like you've launched into this steampunk city, and yeah, it came out pretty good. You'll see in a second. After I've built these towers, I start building like apartment building-esque type things, and they came out pretty cool. Obviously, if you know Ruckberg in Phantasialand in Germany, you'll know that this is heavily inspired by there, because I absolutely adore that place. But yeah, you can see here I built one little balcony apartment block, and then I just duplicate that around to sort of go side by side of itself, and it makes these nice little apartment blocks. Now, whilst I continue building in the background, I'm going to talk about my initial thoughts of the game. And I honestly, after playing it for a while, I think it's really good. It's got some awesome features in it, but it doesn't feel like it had been played, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel like anyone at Frontier, they put all the cool features in, but it doesn't feel like someone played it and thought this is how it's going to actually be used, because some of the buttons and controls are placed in such awkward places that it just begs the question, like, did anyone actually play or test this game? But those things are pretty minor, and they can get fixed with pretty small patches in the future. I haven't touched water slides yet, and I know that water slides do look pretty terrible. I don't know if that's even putting it politely. I think that the water slides, and especially the big raft slides, look very badly implemented into the game, I'll be honest. I think they are quite clearly just skinned roller coasters just to look like water slides. But I haven't touched those yet, and I don't know when I will touch those because I'm more of a coaster builder personally, but I will jump into water parks at some point. But anyway, that being said, Frontier have already announced that they are going to work on the physics of water slides in the near future, so that is very exciting. Something else that is super exciting that they announced that they will be bringing in an update sometime soon is unload and load stations separate from each other on coasters, or I hope any ride that we choose, obviously not flat rides, but any coasters and dark rides and log flumes, whatnot. That would be amazing. So that's really cool to see that Frontier are actually listening to us on those parts. Now back to the build quickly. You'll see I'm adding loads of air ducts and just realistic things to the warehouse, I guess. But something I had to do inside the warehouse to have the dark interior look properly dark during daytime, which obviously is a new feature in Planet Coaster 2 with the ray tracing, is I needed to turn off atmospheric, I think it was atmospheric quality or something like that in the graphics settings, because it was making like this blue glow, like mist glow, especially in the larger dark ride section, the larger coaster section, sorry, which I wasn't entirely sure why. It's very bizarre, but if you turn that off in the settings, then it completely goes away. Another thing which is kind of annoying, but some of the lights only activate at nighttime, so it's not all lights that work in daytime in dark spaces, only some of the lights work, which is a shame, but who knows, maybe that is something to be patched in the future, or you never really know. We can only hope. But yes, that's the progress I've made so far. As you can see, I have not made the front facade to this massive warehouse. It's just an exposed bit of the station area, which won't be staying like that, of course. I plan to build a big sort of manor house to go at the front of the facade to block the view, obviously, of all of this warehousing, which will be hidden behind like back of house. And I kind of want it so that you're walking through the queue line in the manor house, and then you go through like a bookcase or something to go down a secret passage, and then you're entering this steampunk world like under the manor house type scenario. So that's my plan for that, and I'll be doing that in maybe a future video. If you guys like this video, then please let me know, and I will release a video finishing this ride in the near future. But yes, I could talk for hours about my thoughts on this game, and there is a lot of positive. There's so many cool features in this game that I absolutely adore over Planet Coaster 1, but there are quite a few things, sadly, that still need a lot of work. But that's the same with every game. That was the same with the first Planet Coaster as well. It needs a lot of work, and it seems like Frontier are going to put a lot of work into it. They're already announcing a big patch, like I said, for the load and unload stations, and by the looks of it, fixing water slide physics, which seemed very lazily implemented in the first place. So yes, thank you for watching this video of my first ever build in Planet Coaster 2. If you want to see another episode where I complete the front facade of the coaster and fully finish off this ride, then let me know in the comments and I'll get working on that. But thank you again for watching, and if you want to see more Planet Coaster videos soon, then hit the subscribe button and I'll get on making those. Bye for now, and I'll see you soon.